All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I'm here with Gabe and Naseed, PB Soldier. In this episode, we have special guest, Naseed Gifted. We cover topics that range from comic books, science fiction, animation, storytelling, and much more. We wrapped the episode up with quotes from Zig Ziglar and Robert Oppenheimer. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. We want to thank everyone for sticking with us through these COVID times. This has been an interesting year, to say the least, and we're back at it with the Zoom meeting. And we want to obviously thank the creators of Zoom, because without them, this wouldn't be possible. And so just as usual, everyone's in their home offices, so bear with us if you hear, maybe a kid in the background or pets. So, but we do appreciate the love and support. Anyway, with that being said, Naseed, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's definitely a wonderful opportunity to be able to be on this podcast with you guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's jump right in. So those of us who do not know who you are and what you do, let us know.
Oh, man. So my name is Naseed Gifted. I am the creative director of PBS Media, which is Focus Black Star Media. Also, I am an educator. I am the principal of a high school in Newark, New Jersey, Malcolm X Shabazz High School, and then the writer of a sci-fi or Afrofuturism sci-fi series called PB Soldier. Those are some of the hats that I wear. And then on top of that, I also am the founder of a comic festival called ChemFest. So, so those are the many hats that I wear, but, try to, do all those things at the same time, and, a father too. So, just make all of these things work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how did you get started in the comic industry? Was this something that, you started as a child, or was it something you found interest later on in life?
Well, it's a combination of the two. So, for me, growing up in the 80s, Saturday morning cartoons was the big thing, right? Yep. These were Saturday morning cartoons, martial art flicks, and everything, and trying to emulate all of those things. So that's where the passion kind of developed. But one of the things that did happen was, as I was watching those Saturday morning cartoons, I didn't see enough representation of individuals who looked like myself and, my peers. Sure. So, I took that. And then, I went out and sought to do my career. So I sought my career as an engineer, fulfilled that career, then transitioned into education. It wasn't until I actually had my own children where I took my son to see Incredible Hulk. And when I took him to see Incredible Hulk, we had a conversation about superheroes. And he could name, all the superheroes at just about the top 5 that everyone could pretty much name. Yep. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, all of those individuals. And, just to give you a little insight into my household, he knows a lot about knowledge of self and, the history of, who he is and where he comes from. So when I talked to him about, in particular, superheroes, he could not name anyone who looked like him. So initially, I got upset and then sought out on a journey to do something about it. So now all of these passions and everything that I had as a child, all of that started resurfacing and everything. So I had to go back, like I said, I was an engineer by trade who transitioned into education. So I went to school, I went to all of these different Comic Cons. I did all this research and everything to see how can you bring forth a story. And then, to this day, this was the birth of PB Soldier. Now, PB Soldier, which you can probably see in the logo right here, was actually a clothing line when we were in college. Me and a couple of my buddies, my partners, who are now my friends for life, we developed a clothing line. And the PB Soldier was an actual T-shirt. It wasn't until I was sitting in the house with my kids and my wife at the time. She is a flight attendant, so while I'm in the house, with the kids and everything, I started developing a whole storyline behind it, and then henceforth, we got the birth of PB Soldier, the comic series and everything. So that's my origin story, as they would say in the comic book industry.
Nice.
So growing up, you were into comics.
Yes.
And cartoons, obviously.
Yes.
Did you get influenced by any particular one to develop the character?
Oh yes. Well, I mean, let me tell you the titles I used to collect. I used to collect I was a big Spider-Man, X-Men, and then Black Panther. I didn't do anything DC. I watched DC on TV, Super Friends, and all that stuff, but I didn't collect those. But those were the titles that I collected. Growing up, and then get into high school and everything. Basketball and girls kind of replaced those passions and everything. So I put the comics to the side, donated it to my little brother, who still kept all these comics to this day. But then, of course, when I got back into comics, and looked to develop my own series, pretty much started picking up titles and reading. Once again, did a lot of manga. So a lot of manga is influenced. And then actually, our character is not a superhero, so it has some historical references placed in it. And basically, we did a foreshadowing of, like what this world will look like today with the Stop and Frisk, the Espionage Act, or the Patriots Act of 2001. All of those things are kind of all infused into this political environment of PB Soldier.
I love that. And so talk a little bit about the premise behind it. If someone were to read it or watch PB Soldier, what can they expect? What's the whole plot?
Well, the whole plot, and I break it down real simply, is we're living in the near future where we live in a world where everyone's considered a terrorist. PB Soldier, who's one of the world's top hackers, has just been labeled one of the top terror threats in this world. It has to go underground, unofficially off of the books, to work for the newly formed world government called the Establishment. As he's getting trained as an assassin, he starts seeing visions of a life that's not of his own. It was actually his ancestors trying to hack into him while he's hacking into the world. And that's pretty much where the whole storyline kind of kicks off from, where he's trying to get an understanding of the present world and then how his past connects to what paves a pathway for the future.
So I've watched anyone who has Netflix, right? And if there's any kind of series on Netflix, it kind of you're watching one episode that then leads into the next.
Yes.
So the story is a continuum, but could be totally different, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I find that to be that's not an easy thing to do. How do you process that without being too choppy or the storyline not making sense?
Well, I mean, part of it is, and I mean, I just so happened, because of the nature of my job, the nature of my family, I had to plan all this out, prior. So
right.
The one thing that Tyler Perry did, from a business standpoint, was when he came out with Meet the Browns, he sold a 100-episode deal to, I believe it was TBS, and that 100-episode deal, he, if they aired it or they didn't, he had a 100-episode deal. So I looked at that model and I sketched this whole thing out for 65 episodes. So I have to outline the premise for each of the 65 episodes. Now, I knew as an educator and as a family man that, my job wouldn't allow me to be able to write. If I got picked up today, I wouldn't be able to write these episodes sequentially, and be able to make the time and deadlines that are needed to be able to make this thing work. So I said to myself, I'm going to write the premise. I'm going to have all these episodes sketched out. So, so now I know backwards and forward where this is leading to. Okay. Like what's the next series is going to look like. So I did that from a writing standpoint. And what I also did too, and understanding that writing is a process and, creativity and everything. The writing got better as I moved along. I didn't go back. I may have added maybe I would add, what do they call them? Little nuggets, or what do they call that? When you put something in an episode that's connected to a later episode or something like that. I'm trying to think.
Like little Easter eggs.
Easter eggs. There you go. So I put little Easter eggs in it to make sure that it all connected and all aligned. But that was how I was forward thinking about this whole thing. I mean, I got a whole apocalypse that happens, and what the next series will look like, and all of these different things. So that was just a part of the scheme of developing the series.
That's amazing. That can go both ways too, right? I mean, if you go out 65 episodes, then come back in, and then your writing's getting better. So as you move on to episode 20 or so, episode 65, by the time you get to that, it's almost even in itself building the story.
Mm-hmm. And that was pretty much what I did too. So looking at episode 1, and then that was the first one we of course put to print. Mm-hmm. Once we put that to print, I got the reviews and everything. I took the feedback, and I added that feedback into episode 2. Where even though I already had it written, now I incorporated that feedback into episode 2. Just to improve the product, moving forward, so they could actually see growth in the series as well.
That's awesome. So you said print. So can you talk a little bit about the forms of media this is available, or what you want it to be?
Yes. So it's available in print right now. Currently, we actually are printing the graphic novel. So we were printing serials prior to our recent Kickstarter. So we did a Kickstarter, and now we're going to be doing nothing but graphic novels moving forward. So we have a 176-page graphic novel that will be dropping at the end of this month. Excuse me, let me take that back. The pre-ordered sales will be dropping at the end of this month, where we're going to be launching it on September 20th, 2020. So that actually contains episode 1, episode 2.0, 2.5, 3.0, and 3.5. And then the first 10 pages of our next series called Jason. And then we have 2 prequels that we included into that as well that never have gone to print. So you get the forward and backwards piece for the PB Soldier series, and then you get an insight into the next series. And that's the part when we talk about the feedback. So I initially wanted to do 13 episodes of PB Soldier before I branched off into any spinoffs or anything like that.
Okay.
But the feedback that we've got, with our female character, who is Jason in the story, received such high reviews, and they kept saying, look, we would love to have a story, about her. So we developed the story behind her, which is a 120-page graphic novel, which will be launching we're going to do a Kickstarter in January of 2021 and launch that in March, Women's History Month of 2021. So, but the book is already done, though. The book is already done. Okay. We just try to do things sequentially. So, it'd just be more strategic.
So graphic novel. So I saw on the website you do have a gentleman that does the artwork. You want to speak a little bit about how you found him, how that connection happened?
Oh, yes.
And how I also want you to explain conversations that you had, because when you're trying to, draw out in your mind or give someone the detail as to what you actually want and whether they can translate that or not on paper, that's not an easy thing to find. But you found the guy who worked.
Well, and I'm glad you asked that, because that's the power of the internet right now.
Yeah.
I've worked with local artists, high school students, paid individuals. I did the whole gambit, when I was exploring this whole thing. I just got this real fancy idea. I was like, you know what? I'm going to hold an audition for my artist. So I did an audition. I put an ad out. And that's how I came across my artist. My artist, Abel Garcia, who I've been working with the last 8 years, was a phenomenal artist. When we talk about vision, and that's what you're talking about, someone who matches your vision. So we did the audition. I had about 5 or 6 candidates. All I did was I gave them, I knew, because in comics, you when you do your script, you do a panel by panel design, right? So I didn't give for the audition piece, I didn't give that to them because I wanted to see what they actually would add into the actual piece. So I gave them a 1-pager narrative.
Okay.
I told them to develop what that 1 page would look like. I gave them samples of what the characters were, and then I just let them go. The individual Abel, man, he did a phenomenal job. Turnaround time was great. So I went with him, and we've been working ever since. Now, when you talk about translating stuff from paper to illustration, first of all, Abel is in Barcelona, Spain, and he doesn't speak any English. So everything that I give him, he has to translate and interpret to be able to match it. So that was something that in the beginning was a small challenge. I ain't even gonna say it was a big challenge. It was a small challenge, because he wanted to learn my style. I learned his style. Now, I detailed the script, because even with my scripts, I actually embed pictures of scenes that I want, and then he just kind of takes it and adds his own value, because you never want to kind of taint someone's creative flow or creative juices. So I want them to be able to add to the piece, because that's what he does. He just he takes what I put on paper and then he just adds to it, and then the end result is just something phenomenal. I get excited every time he sends me sends me the sketches and everything. So it's been a powerful journey. But for those of you individuals who are looking to work with individuals, I found some phenomenal artists, locally. But the problem I had with those individuals were time. Most of the time, you're trying to make it so you working on multiple projects. They didn't have the time to dedicate to the project. And of course, being able to pay individuals what they're worth. So that was something that, that's a reality of, the business that you're dealing with. Somebody can, match the vision, be passionate about it, but, they got to feed their family. So, they're not just doing your project, they're doing your project, somebody else's project. And then, stuff as far as timelines and everything, gets skewed. So I was able to work with him, and he was able to dedicate the time. And make everything happen and everything work. And he's been doing a phenomenal job. I'm still working with him to this day, and then, we just added on to the PBS Media family. We have Manliola Martinez, who actually does the coloring now, and just keep building on and on from there.
I mean, I think it's incredible too, because illustration, right, is just as important as the storyline, and sometimes could set off something that's even average. But if you're looking at the graphics, like, wow, I mean, it really stands out, and it blows someone's imagination in circles, and it really gets things going in like a fun way, right? And so of course the storyline's awesome, and then you add it with great graphics.
Yes.
Explain a little bit how that happened with the novel, right? So you have a graphic novel. How's that set up? And then how did you communicate that with Abel?
Well, I mean, you got to think of two things. The model for PBS Media is exceptional artwork with unprecedented storytelling. So you want to be able to have two things. So my vision for all of this was, when you put our comic next to a Marvel or DC, you have to actually make a choice, where it doesn't look, when you look at the quality of the work, like you may not know the brand, but at least you can say, oh, wow, like maybe I could look into this, and that's something that we wanted to do, when we brought the storyline forward in the first place. When I look at all of this stuff, we wanted to, kind of tell a story and use it as a visual medium, because as an educator, when you learn from adolescents, you learn through pictures. So using pictures as a tool, and that's name association. So one of the vehicles that we use for this is using comics to teach STEM. So STEM, for those who are, tuning in, is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So we wanted to use this comic series as a way to be able to teach those things, because as you get into upper grade levels or higher education, the things that we generally see mentally becomes more abstract. So you can't make those connections to the actual concepts. So now what we're doing is, being that PB Soldier is a computer hacker, which is computer science, we're actually going to kind of paint a picture where you can actually develop these mental models to take a really tough concept as computer science and break it into something that you can visually see. So now we can inspire individuals to get excited about, probably even moving into the computer science or engineering field, all of those things. So that's the actual added value piece that we wanted to, put on top of, telling a cool story and everything else.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So what you said in what, September this will get released. Where are you in the process? So the whole thing's already done, designed, ready to rock and roll.
It's actually is at the printer right now. Should be printing on July 15th. I should be getting the shipment will be coming out. So all of those individuals who participated in the Kickstarter will get all of the pre-orders, and then we'll be doing pre-orders for the general public after that, for the release on September 20th, 2020.
Absolutely. That's amazing. That's exciting too, right?
No, it's definitely exciting. We're going to be doing a whole vlog series leading up to that. So yeah, it's definitely exciting.
So explain a little bit about that. Explain a little bit about how the release is happening, a little bit behind the marketing, the concept. Because if, nowadays, it's you got to definitely set yourself apart, from the competition, obviously. And obviously you're a creative guy, so you definitely need creativity for this bad boy.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. A lot of it comes in, finding a niche in the market, that for comic book titles, especially being, as most people would say, a Black comic book title, you want to stand outside of the pack. So using comics to teach STEM is one of the avenues that we're doing. We also do a comic festival called Chem Comic Fest, where we are the producers of that event each and every year. And we also host the Chem Animation Film Festival each and every year. So now we're connecting all of those as a nexus where creators of today meet the creators of tomorrow. So that's an avenue that we are, kind of tapping into. And then being that we're doing all of that, still putting the fact that, we have a graphic novel series that not only has a powerful storyline, but actually can educate at the same time. So we have the Hacker's Guide to PB Soldier, which has a ton of resources and activities for those who may be interested in computer science. And it's a supplemental material that comes along with the graphic novel. We didn't want to put it in the graphic novel to kind of, make it water the story value down. But you're like, wow, I really like this. And, I might be interested in becoming a computer science. But how do I get into it? Sure. So we have a ton of activities that you can participate in. There is higher education resources in there. There is website resources in there. So those all are tied into what we're doing with the graphic novel series.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And obviously you're in education as well. So, is this something that you're going to share with your students and your teams, outside of PBS?
I try to separate the two, only because it's a conflict of interest.
Sure.
So, because I don't want to make it seem like that, being that I am a principal or whatever, I'm pushing this on to my scholars. But what I do is, I let them know that I am a comic writer. So if you're interested in that platform, I mentor and I do those different things. But I do go to schools. I just go to schools outside of my school and outside of my district because of that whole, because of the position that I hold.
Absolutely. So I saw on your website you PB Soldier getting nominated for the Glyph Comic Awards. Can you explain a little bit about that and how that came about?
Oh man, so we came out the gate with the comic book series in 2012, and the ECBOC, which is the East Coast Black Age of Comics, was one of the actual conventions that we went to when I was doing this research, because I knew about comics, I knew about the series, and I went to New York Comic Con and various other things. And that was actually where I met a number of Black comic book creators initially. As I was researching this field, because I didn't even know anyone, prior to me getting into the field. So I've seen some things, I've seen some artwork or whatever the case may be, but I didn't know. So I wasn't in the know. And once we finally came out with the series, we submitted to ECBOC, which is East Coast Black Age Comics, and we were nominated for Best Artist and Best New Comic. So that was that. And then Urban Action Showcase, we were nominated for that as well. So we came out the gate, and really people took a liking to what we were doing, because what I wanted to do initially, and this was the concept of conceive, believe, achieve. I conceived the concept, in my mind. I achieved it with my hands, but I didn't officially believe in it in my heart until we actually got it into the world and we started getting feedback from the general public. And then that was like you just like you birth something into the world and you just like, wow, people received it really well, and that kind of said, look, it's go time now. Let's make it happen. And then that's pretty much where we got to. And just being nominated, that actually put us on a platform to do a ton of other things. And the fact that I'm an educator, got us the opportunities to be able to do panel discussions, go to different colleges and universities to do talks. So all of those things kind of impacted based on, our initial, just going hard, grinding, and, making something happen. And the main thing was pretty much putting out a quality product.
Absolutely. So, quick question: How did you guys decipher the nonsense from real feedback that was going to help you develop this a little bit better, right? Because we all know that there's trolls out there and are just saying negative things, just to say negative things. I mean, you could have the best thing in the world, and that's just not in their lane to say something positive, so they just say something negative. Yeah. How was it that you guys were able to use really true constructive feedback to apply to PB Shoulder?
Well, I mean, you did a combination of things. So we took comic review sites, we took that feedback, and then we took the general public feedback, because one thing that we always ask is, tell us what you think about the series. I used to put pages. We used to do PB Soldier Wednesdays. I don't do it as much anymore. It's kind of like PB Soldier every day. Yeah. But I used to do PB Soldier Wednesdays for 2 years straight. And all I would do was drop pages. I didn't ask people to buy. I didn't ask anybody. All I said was like, share, and tell us what you think. And that was how we were able to kind of get, authentic feedback from the general public. And then, of course, use that feedback to be able to improve. I think of it as like an app. Like when you put an app out, initially, it's not until, the consumer actually uses it before you get the updates. And then the updates, of course, you tweak a few things and everything. So that's what I look at with, with the project. Now, we're not going to make drastic changes, but we would incorporate some of that feedback into what we're doing.
So we've had writers, creators, artists, all kinds of people on that produce their own product like you have, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, it's an easy analogy is like in the music industry, right? Let's say you put a song together and you give it to one of your boys or your family to listen to. What's hard about the feedback is that you don't want to take it personal, but that's kind of like your baby, right?
Yeah.
You invested so much time and energy into this product, and you're so proud of it. How did you avoid not getting caught up in your feelings, so to speak?
Well, I mean, that's where the believe part come in. Like you got to believe in a product. So one of the courses I took at NYU was storyboarding and animatics, right? And that was done by one of the directors. That was the one thing I liked about NYU. It was industry professionals that were actually teaching the classes. So the industry professional was director of animation for Nickelodeon, right? Oh, wow. He was my professor. He was one of the first individuals that I, gave the comic to, just for feedback or whatever. And, he said he circulated around the office. They you know, like the first thing that they said was what the PB stand for, and he was saying peanut butter soldier, and you know, and all these little things or whatever. And, you know, I didn't get upset with that type thing, you know, and I received the feedback. You know, I couldn't get personal because I know that I'm new to the industry, but it wasn't going to deter me from not continuing to push forward. You know, because there are individuals out there who will, you know, say, "Oh, why are you continuing with this?" Like right now, we are 8 years strong. Like, you know, most people would have dropped the project by now. You know, especially in the comic book industry where it's not as lucrative as you would may think it is. You know? But you know, you still want to develop your brand to a point where, you know, it becomes, you know, a staple product that, you know, you could do a lot of transmedia pieces with, you know. So that's why we're still out here. We're still pushing. I mean, the ultimate goal with all of this is, you know, goes back to my original origins of, you know, animation. So we want this to be an animated series, but we have to show that this is a proven product, you know, on this level in order for other people to want to invest in it on the next level.
I love that. And you have an awesome background too. So can you explain a little bit about your engineering background, and has that, you know, allowed you to apply any of those I guess strategies? I would think that one of them would be 65 episodes deep to then, you know, go back the other way, because that's a lot of
my whole engineer training. Engineers are what we call problem solvers. So I saw a problem in the community and I looked to solve it, and that's for the comic book series. So one of my personal missions were to develop the next generation of technology leaders. That's what drives me. That's why I was in education. I helped to develop the next, you know, group of engineers, computer programmers, you know, exposing them to all of those things. PB Soldier has just become another medium to be able to fulfill that mission. And that was always, you know, the main goal of all of this.
How do you come up with the next idea, the next episode, the next character? How do you, Naseed, how do you stay creative, or what do you do to get creative?
Well, I mean, you continuously research and everything. So, you know, that also comes from engineering. So we got an R&D department, right? Our R&D department is me going to watch movies, me watching new anime series, you know, all of those things, and seeing what's out there. Like, oh wow, that's a cool idea. You know, what if I incorporated this? You know, and then the fact that I already have all of these episodes kind of laid out, I can infuse some of those things into what we're doing. So the last piece of, you know, like PB Soldier, you know, meaning he has an engineering background, he's more like a MacGyver. So for those of you who don't know, he pretty much uses the resources around him to develop different things. So that is, you know, one of the things that, you know, allows you to stay creative. You know, you see ammonia and bleach. You know, you can develop a smoke screen, you know, like, you know, the different things, you know, little things like that. So that's kind of incorporated into the story without, you know, saying a whole bunch of, you know, giving a lot of science jargon and everything like that. You know, you just see that it's a cool concept, but just being using your natural surroundings to be able to solve problems. And then, you know, hopefully being able to use that as something that a model for the community to be able to use. Like, look, you have all of the resources to be able to solve these problems that's going on around you.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. What does I know you had conversations with your son early on. You know, what does he make of all this now? Yeah, now you actually created something. You know what I mean? That's awesome.
Well, it's two things that he actually looked at. I'm inspired because he's 16 now. So I'm inspired that he actually wants to come up with his own comic series now.
Nice.
That's awesome.
You know, I actually experimented with him. So because of this whole journey of me, you know, coming up with this whole series and everything, you know, I was able to develop a whole, you know, like from an educational standpoint, when you have reluctant readers, get them a comic. You know, because it goes back to that whole part of developing those mental models, right? So my son, he liked to read, but he didn't read for entertainment or anything like that. But when I gave him comics and everything, he read those cover to cover, you know. And then when we talk about understandings and higher order thinking skills and being able to synthesize information and being able to have a conversation that goes beyond the text. Because, when, as in school, traditionally, once you expose to chapter one, after you get tested on that, it's in this area, out the other.
Yeah.
When you talk about, concepts and within, the comic or graphic media, being that you can visualize it, you could get a deeper understanding. And then what the research has shown in studies is that not only do you get a deeper understanding, you actually want to research it further because you have a mental model of what that actual concept looks like. So that is something that he's been doing. And now I'm having conversations with him, about all of these different concepts and everything, which is very inspiring, in itself.
Oh man, we might need it in the future. We might need a combo, a father-son combo, man.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I'm telling them to write it down. Like, write it down. That's pretty much it. And that's how you get started with all of this stuff.
Yeah. So I jumped on your website and saw you had merch. You want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, you have skateboard decks, dog tags, all kinds of things. Talk a little about your website and how it came about.
Oh yeah, the website. I mean, it was just an extension of the brand that we're doing. So even though PB Soldier is a comic book series, is really about a lifestyle. So we used to host, and we haven't done it recently, but we used to host skate competitions. The dog tag, of course, is just one of the representations of what he currently carries around his neck, and that's like the whole passing down of your ancestry. So that's something that was passed down from one of his ancestors to him. So we try to do that representation, and then if you go to the Instagram page, you'll see the PB Soldier workout. So because there's a whole concept of healthy eating, healthy living, and PB Soldier kind of exists in this this type of form. That's something else that we actually branched off into, and just had, and then when you talk about differentiation, that's another way that we differentiate it. Like this is not just a comic. This is more of a lifestyle than anything. So from eating healthy eating tips to exercising, especially with the gym clothes and everything.
Absolutely.
Like, what would PB Soldier do in this in this type of environment? This is the workout that he does. This is how he trains, so he had a little posters and everything. And all of those little supplemental materials kind of comes with the comic book series.
That's awesome, man. And if someone wants to find your website, what's the best place to go? And also, can you say the dates again for the release of the graphic novel? And how they can connect with you on social media?
Yes. So everything for PB Soldier is PB Soldier. PBSOLDIER. So that's pbsoldier.com, and all of the social media platforms is at PB Soldier. So that's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, of course, it would just be PB Soldier. So that is how you will be able to find all of the different platforms that's available. We update more regularly on the social media than we do on the website, but we're going to be rehauling the website as we launch the graphic novel, which is dropping September 20th, 2020. So 9/20/2020. So you'll see, all of those 20s there, so you can't forget the date. So 9/20/2020.
Awesome. Gabe, do you have anything?
Just if you could reimagine or expand upon a existing, maybe even a mainstream Marvel comic, would there be anything you'd be interested in kind of doing something like that?
Possibly, but just doing this, I like the fact that we are able to develop our own characters, our own series, and just being able to expand upon those individuals. So, I mean, just having control of the narrative, that's something that a lot of people don't have. So we're able to brand it the way we want to brand it, and it's almost like the Netflix model. Like if you don't like it, you can just tune off. You can just turn to another series. That's pretty much what we're doing with the whole thing. But that is, I mean, if it was a project that I would want to work on, I would do Marvel Black Panther. I would think.
Okay.
I would do something like that, and then maybe even Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, because I grew up on Spider-Man, and then that's actually a popular character. That I would like to add a couple of little touches to.
No, definitely. Because there definitely needs to be more diversity, and especially in the more mainstream ones too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So those are the two projects that I would work on, outside of doing our own independent business.
So and is all
That's awesome.
And all your characters it's kind of like you're expanding obviously on the characters you are making now. So are they all feeding back into the main story, or those are all just kind of side stories that are kind of like
No, all of them feed into the main story. We haven't branched off yet. Besides with the one character Jason, who has a graphic novel series, but even that all ties into the PB Social world. And that's so like this is happening over here, this is happening over here, but it all ties into everything that's going on in this particular world.
And that's just kind of fleshing out like those characters to kind of like so when they go into main story, you understand their backgrounds and all this stuff.
Yep, that's correct.
Nice.
That's correct. And one of the things that we did when we started it, like we didn't start with an origin story.
Okay.
We kind of jump right into the action, and then as the storyline builds, you see flashbacks of how you got to this point.
Nice.
Those type of things. And what it also allowed us to do, especially like with the prequels, was like we can go back and rewrite those prequels to be able to match that.
And it makes it a little more, I guess, dynamic as you go along too. It's a kind of like that you're not just stuck in one origin story. You kind of like build upon it as you go along.
Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, cool. Naseed, do you have anything you would like to share? Anything you'd like to add? Any parting words?
Well, I mean, my parting words is if you have a dream, if you have anything, a concept, an idea, first of all, I want you to write it down. That's the first thing, because that makes it real. And then we want you to, work hard and be consistent. Research the top 5% in any particular industry that you want to jump into. Learn from those individuals. I know Harvard Business Group does. They actually have studies on any group that I've done studies on Marvel, on Disney, on all of these different companies. Because I want to know how they do what they do. And then, of course, we're not at that level, but, you want to grow your brand to that level. So you need to know the strategies that they use, how they plan to get a blockbuster each and every time. One thing that people don't know, Disney financed all of their movies. Wow. They're one of the only media companies that finances all of their movies. So that $200 million that you see, Disney puts that up. So, and then they have all of these different houses up under them. So you have Marvel, you have Lucasfilm, you have Pixar, you have Disney. Like all. So basically, they put out a movie. They put out a movie every month of the year. And the lead up to that is how they already know that it's going to be a hit or not, because they do everything a year out. You start hearing about the movie a year before it even comes out. And then they use that build and keep putting it in your brain. So then when the movie finally drops, they already got the pre-sale. They already know what kind of numbers they're going to see on the movie before the movie even hit. So by the end of week 1, week 2, they already made their money back on the movie plus. So those things, and then that takes away the guesswork. Like, I don't know if this is going to be, what the people want or whatever. So, I mean, just doing that type of extensive research in the particular field that you're in, because then you can go from conceive in your mind, believe in your heart, to achieving with your hands. And that's where conceive, believe, achieve come in, and then that will allow you to be able to accomplish any goal that you have in life.
I love it. Awesome. Good stuff, man. Well, thank you for joining us. We'd like to close out. Absolutely. We'd like to close out with quotes. The first one is by Robert Oppenheimer. The foolish man seeks happiness in the distance. The wise grows it under his feet. And the second one by Zig Ziglar. If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. If you're determined to learn, no one can stop you. PB Soldier. In this episode, we have special guest Naseed Gifted. We cover topics that range from comic books, science fiction, animation, storytelling, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Zig Ziglar and Robert Oppenheimer.
Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.